now it's time to be dangerous. Now it's time to get risky. Now it's time to truly find out what you're made of and what you could achieve. Now it's time to truly find out how many lives you can impact. Now it's time to find out what you were destined to become.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Raw Minds Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and this isn't just your polish and play it safe mental health talk. This is where we rip off the mask and get straight right to the real. If this is your first time tuning in, hit follow, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone that needs to hear the truth. Around here, we talk about the stuff most people run from, the pain, the pressure, and the purpose. And today, this episode is all about that deeper kind of success, the kind that you earn by looking within and doing the hard work emotionally that most men will never do. So I am very thrilled to introduce my truly inspiring guest, Randy Lyman. This man is a powerhouse, a physicist, an founder of multiple seven-figure companies, and someone who has redefined what it means to lead with purpose. Randy blends emotional intelligence and spiritual grounding in a way that challenges how we think about success, not just in business, but in life. His new book, The Third Element, The Missing Key to Activating the Law of Attraction, shows how self-awareness, emotional growth, and inner healing can drive real change in leadership, in business, and in life. It's already helping leaders shift from burnouts to balance, from disconnect to purpose-driven. Randy, man, I am pumped to have you here. Welcome to Raw Minds. Sorry, there we go. Here we are.
Here we go. And I love the idea of just diving into what most people avoid.
Yeah, that's what we do here. We break the barriers and show that, real vulnerability and real talking about it is true strength. Before we dive in, I always like to give my guests a chance to introduce themselves and to the audience and to in their own words. So, Randy, can you let the people know who you are, where they can follow you, plug everything, you're online, whatever, they can grab a copy of your book as well. I will post in here too. So you guys, you can see this is the book. If you hit the link below, it'll take you right to the online. And
well, we can't always say that word. It's a major bookseller, so that we don't get banned on some of the
major booksellers.
Yes. Major booksellers. So I'm really proud of the book. It took me 4 years to write because I started out very factual and it was not interesting. So I rewrote it and made it more of a story, shared more of my stories. And I really wanted to make sure people could get value from it. My life has been wonderful based on what I've learned and applied and all that I've been through. And I want everybody's life to be better. We all have the opportunity to look at ourselves and find a way to improve. And I want to make it easy for people. That's the reason I wrote the book. Through my website, randylyman.com, they can get access to the book, free offers, free exercises, book lists. That books have been helpful for me and practitioners I use today for my own mental and emotional health.
That's awesome, man. I want to correct something, not 7, 8.
Yeah, there was 8-figure, but the bio that went out a long time ago was wrong. So I had multiple 8-figure businesses. I had 7-figure businesses back in 1989 when I was the left brain scientist, not aware of emotions at all. And I met a woman I spent 3 years with as a romantic partner. She had been in the spiritual self-improvement world for about 15 years. And she helped me realize that the emotional side of being human is just as important. And in the end, I really believe it's more important than our mind and our physical reality, because we're here to feel good. So we educate ourselves and we work hard. And in doing that, we turn off our feelings to try and become smarter and work harder so we'll feel better. And we forget about the feeling part because we're afraid of that. The feelings aren't just good feelings. We're human. And so we have frustration and anger and disappointment. And I had turned all that off. So 35 years ago, I introduced the other side of myself. And that started my journey.
That's amazing. So you could kind of say that she lit that fire underneath you, kind of, and you just never looked back from there.
She lit the fire and opened my eyes, and I never looked back. So I learned a lot during the time I was with Maria. I talk about her in the book. My wife hates that, but that was a long time ago. And
but it's part of your journey, right? So
part of my journey. And I'm really thankful for all that I learned from her and for the 100 turn my life took for the better at that point in time.
That's awesome, man. I just want to say I'm proud of you. Honestly, I appreciate you coming out here. I appreciate, going to share all these amazing things with us that you've been through, and some of your tools that you've done. So I just want to start off and just kind of get to where did this all begin, and how did a kid become a physicist and end up building companies and driven into emotional intellect?
Well, I've always been mechanical engineering and math oriented. So I tell people I was educated as a physicist, but I was really born a mechanical engineer, and that might sound odd, but when I was 4 and 5 years old, and I was taking things apart, and by the time I was 6 or 7, I was putting things back together. So that was kind of a natural thing for me. And part of what sparked my real push towards success is when I was 17 years old, a family member, my uncle, said something to me that really hurt me. He was drunk, and he said, "I wish you were more like your friend John." Now, what he meant was, "I love you. I wish we could connect. I connect with John, and I wish I could connect with you." But all I heard was, "You didn't approve of me." Well, I didn't realize at the moment how much that really hurt. But that internal pain drove me to prove my competence. It drove me to success. And about 12 years later, I uncovered that wound. And that was a huge epiphany for me. And that was also a big turning point in my life, because I think we have our wounding when we go through childhood to give us character and to motivate us. And then when we get a little older, we realize, wait a minute, these wounds that drove me are now holding me back. And I get an opportunity to look at myself and figure out how to clean up those challenges and those wrong beliefs that I picked up when I was a child.
I love it. And like to circle back to like what your uncle said to you about your friend, I kind of dealt with something like that. So I was a little bit of a problem child, not going to lie, right? At the same time, who wasn't really when they were young? But like my dad left me. I mean, not left me, but like left our family. And I was just a little hell raiser. And my mom would say, "You're just like your dad." And it hurt me. It really, that's probably one of the most painful things that I felt from words, because I didn't want to be like my dad. Right. At the end of the day, he was just not a nice person. It just wasn't what I wanted to follow down. And those words came into my head again when I got a little bit older, and it inspired me to break the chain of our family generation of alcoholics and whatnot, and became the best father that I could. So I just wanted to say I relate to that, and I know what that flame that it carries inside of you, and if you use it right, you can come out on top and kick some ass.
Yeah, and I think every one of us, our soul looks at a brochure before we come down here and says, this challenge is going to be interesting or fun, and I'm going to have these people lie and cheat and steal from me, and I'm going to have some physical challenges, and yeah, this is great. I'm in. I'm signed up for the trip. And then we come down here and we forget we signed up for all this, and we don't remember that these challenges are truly gifts that help build character and help us make decisions as to what's right and what's wrong. When we see somebody else do wrong or we do wrong, then we get a chance to see contrast and say, wow, I'm going to choose now to do things differently.
Yeah, definitely. That's when you hit that fork in the road and you decide exactly. And I've hit that fork a lot of times in my life, I'll tell you that.
Well, I'm guessing you're in the advanced class, Eric, and when our soul says you're good enough, you could get through these challenges, the challenges are a lot bigger.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just like what's going on, right? Like we were supposed to record yesterday. It's just it's challenges and challenges, and I know they do say like the spirit or the higher power or whatever you believe in. They always say that they give all these hard challenges to the ones that can hold it. Well, I'll tell you, I just wanted to stop. Like I can't hold it anymore. You know what I mean? Like God, like can I just like double up and pass it to someone else? Like it's but it builds you who you are, and that's what makes you or breaks you really in life. And when things happen, I've had so much challenges in my life, through trauma and whatnot. What it does is I find the lessons in it, and that's what you have to do is find the lessons, because in everything there's a yin and yang, and there is a lesson in everything. And sometimes, doing the right thing may not be, like you can get in trouble, but you still do the right thing. And it's about picking that hard,
Yes, 100%. And that's one thing in my business I always told everybody. I said, we're going to do the right thing, even if it's uncomfortable and even if it's expensive in the short term. We're going to do the right thing and it will work out. Yeah. There's never a bad consequence to doing the right thing in the long term. Short term, yeah, there can be, but in the long term, there never is. And it takes a while before somebody evolves personally to that point where they're willing to trust that doing the right thing will pay off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the little things. I heard this story, and this kid the dad got a phone call from the school because his son punched this other boy because the boy was either somehow harassing his sister, you know? And then so the dad picks up the phone. The principal's like, well, your son got in a fight and this is what happened. You know, this boy was bugging his sister, and then he stood up and punched. So, he got in a fight. And then the dad's like, okay, so why are you calling me? And he's like, well, I'm just letting you know what happened. He's like, but you guys are the school. You guys got to handle it. He's like, no, the guy, he's suspended, so you got to have to pick him up. So the little boy's all scared, right? So the dad comes, picks him up, and the dad just says, you know what, I'm proud of you. And the boy's just like, I don't understand. He's like, I'm suspended, you know, I got in trouble, but you're proud of me? He's like, well, sometimes in life, you know, doing the right thing, not saying fighting, but standing up definitely to bullies.
Right.
Doing the right thing, you know, is not always, you know, the greatest moment, you know, cloud nine or I forget how he puts it, but you understand what I'm saying.
There's consequences. There's consequences to our actions, but the consequences to not standing up for his sister could have been far worse than being suspended. And he made that choice. And I would think that you and I would guess, or you and I would say that he made the right choice, because
100%.
There's nothing wrong with protecting the weak. There's nothing wrong with standing up for what's right. Now, when we do that as leaders and we stand up for what's right, sometimes there are consequences. But if we stay focused on doing the right thing consistently, and every choice we make is, okay, what's right for everyone involved and for the greater good of myself and my family and my community, then it's going to work out. And yeah, there will be some bumps in the road. But my experience is when I make the right decision, even if it costs me in the short term, it always works out in the long term.
Exactly. I mean, even I've talked to this about before, and probably one of the most proudest moments of being a dad for my daughter is it was her birthday. And they're at the trampoline park, and it was just her and her friend. She just wanted to bring this one friend, and they met these three other girls that they got along with, and they were all playing. And then these three older girls, they're grade 8. I'm sitting up watching like on the bleachers here, and I'm watching this whole all go down, and they were like bullying, like what I could see them just harassing my daughter and these other girls. So they cornered them into like a wall, and apparently one of the girls says, we're grade 8, we can jump you if we want. Like, they're just little punks, to be honest with you, right? And everybody was scared. But then, and my daughter's like 4 feet, right? She's tiny for her age, and she jumps. I just see it. She jumps on the trampoline, jumps up in the air, puts this girl in the headlock, and brings her down. And I stood up, and I was like, yes, because I could see the whole thing happening, right? And these girls are bullying, and I got goosebumps right now. I was so proud of her. And when she came back out of the trampoline park to come see me, and she was worried I was gonna get mad at her. I'm like, no, honey. You know, I saw everything that would happen. You know, you didn't initiate it, but like you protecting yourself, protecting your friends. And I am so proud of you for standing up for them and standing up for the bully.
So my comment on that is there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries. If we do it from a place of protecting ourselves or protecting somebody else, we're doing it out of respect for ourselves. Now, if we're doing it out of malice or anger, no, that's not reasonable. But we have the right to set boundaries and to stop people from harming us and to protect ourselves through a place of love for ourselves. So it doesn't mean when we stand up for ourselves or we stop somebody, even with appropriate physical force, it doesn't mean we're responding in anger. It can mean we're responding out of love and respect for ourselves and those around us.
Definitely. And it was just a proud moment. What's that saying? Never put baby in the corner.
I hadn't heard that, but I'll remember.
Yeah. It was I forget the movie. It was from a movie, and I think it was a boxing movie, and the guy's name is or something. But I mean, put it in the comments if I'm wrong. Let me know. So getting back on track here. Growing up, who and what shaped you? Shaped your views of success and ambitions?
Oh goodness, I don't recall really who shaped my idea of success, but ambition. And I don't know what it was, like 1984 or so, Mike Tyson was interviewed and somebody said, why are you out here working out and running at 5:30 in the morning? And he said, well, the other guy might be. And that hit home for me. I said, well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But if I focus on being the best person I can, physically, mentally, and later in life, emotionally, then I'm going to end up ahead in where I'm at, competing with myself, not necessarily competing with others. And in my younger years, I competed with a lot of different people and businesses and such in a way that my goal is to always bring better products and services to the customer and to provide a better environment for the people I worked with. So that was my goal, is to do that the best I could. And so that was a competition. So Mike Tyson, his words inspired me. And then Zig Ziglar, I read something or listened to probably a cassette tape in the late 80s on sales. And he said, the best way to be successful is to help other people be successful.
I love it. And you know what, like, I say this all the time. And even like when I had my job interview a while back, they asked, what do you see as a leader or something? I forget the question like that, but how I answered is, a boss will tell you what to do. A leader will show you.
Absolutely. So a leader, and I'm not sure where your questions are going, but I love talking about leadership.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
So a leader's power does not come from their position of authority, their title, their money, any of that. And if you go back 40 years ago, my approach to life was the same as everybody in the 60s and 70s, is do your damn job. Well, as I became more clear, I got through my own anger and I got to see things differently, I realized that people need to feel like they're part of the team. They need three things more than money. They need to be acknowledged for who they are individually. They need to feel like they're contributing. A lot of people, their life doesn't necessarily have meaning, but if they can feel like they're contributing at work, now they love their work. And then they need to feel like they belong to the group. So if I acknowledge, help them feel like they're contributing, help them feel like they belong, they're happy. And if they genuinely feel that I'm there to help them succeed, now they're going to help me succeed. When it's just about me as a leader, they don't give a damn. And if I'm there to push, it only goes so far. And if I'm there to pull, to help them, inspire them, help them understand how they can improve their life at work, to improve their life at home through their earnings or through whatever they learn at work, now they're on my side. Now they're pushing for the team. And they're doing the pushing and I'm doing the inspiring and the pulling. And it's a completely different dynamic. It was scary as hell when I first started to do this, because I thought, God, if I'm vulnerable, if I admit that I don't know what I'm doing, or I admit I've made mistakes, or I ask for help, then they're not going to respect me. But I tried it anyway. And it turns out that when I show up authentic and from a place of service and vulnerability, now when I do that with confidence, they have more respect for me as their leader. And it's not the same dynamic as telling people what to do. We all work together. Now, that being said, there's still times when people need mediation and people need discipline, or some people might need to be removed from the group. Not everybody fits into an environment where we all work together. But if we stay focused on that, and we stay focused on building an environment where everybody works well together, then that grows. We nurture that and it grows. And then the people we work with, they take over part of the leadership because they're part of a completely different environment. Then that leaves me as the CEO free to do the things only I can do. And I don't have to worry about everybody I'm leading.
Yeah. You know, man, I love that. And I try to implement that at work. Like I'm a finishing superintendent. So I come after, right? And that's what I try to do. You know, it's there. I make a thin line, though. There's a thin line between like friendship and in business at the same time. Like it's very, but you know, like I want everybody around me that's working under me to have fun, you know? And if you're going to work, you know, you got to have fun, because if you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong, you know? And that's how I look at it. You know, you don't want to wake up every day, you know, hating your life because, you know, it's a toxic environment, you know, and then your production's not going to be good, you know, and you're going to hate it. And then you're going to spread that toxicity to other people, because, I mean, have you ever heard of the bad apple effect? They put one person in a room that was toxic with, I think, like 50 people or something, 25 people or something like that. And then they had another room with just every happy people. And they noticed in I think it was 5 minutes, that whole room was just negative, you know? And
I've observed that. I was my father was in the hospital, we were talking earlier, and he was in the hospital in December, and on this particular floor, I remember it was ICU or recovery, but I think it was recovery. Everybody's really positive. And then one guy comes on shift who is negative, and he was a master at manipulating people to start to talk about misery with him and the things that weren't right and all the problems. And I watched the energy of the floor change. Now, I'm the kind of guy to speak up. So I went and I found whoever was head of the floor, and I said, this is my observations. This is your floor to run. You do whatever you want, but this is what I observed. Everybody else was wonderful. And this one person, his name was John, this one person, his ego needed to get people to talk shit with him and to bring everybody down. And it was interesting to watch that dynamic. Now, what happened afterwards, I don't know. It's none of my business. It's not my operation. It was a great hospital. But I watched that one bad apple just really change everyone around him. But the same thing happens, Eric. If you take one positive person, if you take one really optimistic person and you put them in a group of people who are just in the middle of the road, and they're strong enough in their center of optimism, then everybody else will start to rise. And it's not easy, but it happens. And that's what happens with real leaders. When they realize that their job is to coach and to train and inspire, not to tell people what to do, but to really help people find the best within themselves, the whole group changes. And to me, when I learned to lead from that point of view, my business grew to 30 and 40 times what it was when I first started to experiment with these different techniques, I guess you could call them.
That's
and another thing, if I can ramble a little longer,
say,
numbers
please,
matter.
Man.
The people don't matter. It's the numbers that matter. Well, people drive the numbers. The numbers don't drive themselves. So when people are on board and they're doing their job and they're happy and having fun, as you said, and they're doing the best they can, that's when the real strong numbers come through.
Yeah. And it's true, man. I mean, like my last job site that I was on, everybody hated it. It was just a lot of people just were not happy there, like things were happening. And I come near the end, right? So I come near the end of the job, to do all the finishing. And everybody was just miserable. And that's like, I just came in, with a smile, joke around, I would bring donuts in or do whatever, just to boost it up. And at the end of it, I had people laughing. We were joking. I had one of the best job sites that I worked on, and it was great. And not just that, but we had great people that were really, really like down low, just brought up, and then they were bringing up other people, and it was like a circus, but like doing construction, having fun, like it was joy, and it was a great time to work. It was I was working Sundays, I was working long weekends, like I had no problem doing that because it was a good environment, and it made me feel good and bringing value, And then when you feel that, you push that out to everywhere, and then you bring that home too. Not the work, but you bring that energy home with you. You feel good. You're not going to come home because, you're getting yelled at for something that you didn't even do, and then a lot of people bring that home, and it sucks.
Well, and so much of life is negative today, and the news is all negative, and people just think, how am I going to find my way? And that's one reason. Another reason I wrote the book is to explain people the rules of life are really simple. Yeah. For me, there's two rules. One is love wins, and we respond from a place of love, meaning not fear, not anger. We can find a lasting solution. Now, even if, like your daughter, we got to set a boundary. If she did that out of care for herself and her friends, then that's fine. If she was just angry and beat the crap out of that girl for no reason, that's not a position of love. But that's not what she did.
We would have a different conversation.
Yeah, it's a different conversation. So again, if we approach everything from a place of how do I find the best solution for everybody involved, to me, that's a version of love. And then the second rule is I believe that God in the universe does not judge us. There's no expectations. There's no judgment. Simply law of attraction. And law of attraction says, and we were talking about this earlier, like My Name is Earl, the TV show, do good things and good things happen. So the law of attraction responds to our thoughts. It responds to our physical actions and what we do in the physical world around us. And it responds to our emotions. And the emotional part is the part that's so not underdeveloped. People just haven't talked about it much. And I've understood this for over 30 years. I wanted to write the book for years, but haven't. But it's our unhealed emotional wounds that interact with the law of attraction. The law of attraction is obligated to remind us of those woundings in our shadow work. And so if I have something that I haven't felt from the past, then the law of attraction says, I want you to feel better. So I'm going to remind you of that old wound by bringing an irritation into your life today. So before I made the connection of, today's irritation is a reminder of something I can heal and move through, I'm just pissed off at the outside world and I'm feeling helpless and I'm angry. Now, and I don't do this every day right away. Sometimes I'm a little slow. I say, wait a minute. This irritation means there's something I get to change. I can change my mindset, I can change my actions, or I can see what I need to feel from the past to feel completely and release. And that's really what has helped me create a better world, is to realize that I'm not a victim and shitty things happen to everybody. But when they do, I can turn them into something good.
I love it. I love it. And speaking of your book, actually, I want to dive a little bit into that. So about your book.
Yes.
The book of the third element digs deep into why law of attraction fails without inner emotion work. Can you break that down for us?
Well, so the law of attraction really is I see that as a version of God. That really is the only thing that interacts with us from a higher perspective. Again, with no judgment, no expectation. So I'm not going to pitch any religion. I'm just saying that it has to, my lights are doing funny things here.
No, you're good, man.
Has to respond to us. It creates our reality. Every moment of the day moving forward is created by law of attraction. And I break this down to the subatomic level and how it relates to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and the double slit experiment and such, in a fun story that's easy to read. It's not difficult science. And so the law of attraction says, where are you going to be? You're going to walk into a physical room, physically walk into a room. Okay, that's going to happen. I'm going to think thoughts, and that's going to change my actions. I'm going to prepare better. And this is all in the real world, the physical realm I'm talking about first, before I talk about the unseen. So I can walk into a different room. I can drive to a different place. I can think different thoughts. I can change my plans. All those things we know are going to drive us to a particular future. Now, I believe through my own experiences, I'm a physicist. I've seen the cause and effect happen so many thousands of times and hundreds of times with other people I've worked with, that my thoughts are going to create my reality, even if they're not directly physically connected. My emotions that I haven't felt from the past are going to create problems in my life today. And how I know that is, if I have a problem that I've approached with my thoughts and my actions for days or weeks or sometimes months, and I've thought through the plan and I've taken all the action and I'm still hitting my head against the wall and I don't get the results, then I remember, oh yeah, the third element, my emotions. What do I need to feel to get a solution? And I talk about some of these stories and my own stories in the book. And then suddenly I do the work and I do breathing, I do breath work, EFT tapping, do body work, Rolfing, emotion, those kind of things. There's in chapter 7, I talk about 14 different exercises we can do. I don't dance, I don't sing, but for some people, that's a way to express the emotion and get it out. We don't have to get to tears every time. Sometimes we do, and that's helpful. So I go back and say, okay, where's the emotional growth potential? And I do my exercises that work for me, breathing and tapping and gratitude and journaling. And now suddenly when I get through the emotion, the solution comes. So I've been working on the problem for, like I say, weeks or sometimes months with a clear mind from me being an intelligent person with a clear mind and taking all the right action. And then when I address that emotional part underneath, where do I hurt from the past that I haven't felt completely? And magically, my world changes and I no longer have the need for that lesson. And the law of attraction says, oh, you don't need to feel this anymore. You felt it and released it. I don't need to bring you irritations in your life around that old emotional wound. And people are going to say, what? Come on, that's hokey. You can't prove that. But I'm telling you, and I've already said this 3 times, I'm a scientist. I look at cause and effect. And I'm a pretty smart guy, and they're smarter. And I work pretty hard, and there's people who work harder. But that's my intelligence and my hard work is not what brought me success. And it certainly didn't bring me fulfillment and happiness. It gave me a good start. And then in order to find true success, I had to be clear enough to work with the people around me so that they could show up being their authentic self without having to play parts for me to irritate me, without having to reflect my inner turmoil, without having to reflect my anger, without having to reflect my frustration. And I attracted better people. They showed up happier. It was a better environment. And we accomplished so much more. Again, some people may say, well, this is woo-woo, this is hocus pocus, but let them think that. And in the book, again, I share my stories and people can have some inspiration to experiment, at least on a small level. Say, okay, I'm irritated. Maybe I'm going to learn some breath work. Wim Hof is great.
Amazing.
He's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I got his book as well. It's just what he can do with his body just blows my, like on his book, he was saying he was like laying down. The doctors were just blown away that he was like, his regulating his temperature of his body. And they're like, how the hell are you doing this? It's just what he can do is just amazing. And his story, I mean, it's a sad story, obviously, where he came from, right? Like with his wife. I think she committed suicide, but I believe she jumped or something like that. Left them a note with the kids, right?
Yeah.
A very sad story. But I mean, that's just one of those things. And like Raw Minds came from a sad story. My fiance passed away 2 years ago on Father's Day, and it came from pain to power, and me being alone, I didn't want other men to be alone, and it's kind of the same thing. Wim Hof, not on that scale, but I mean, it's the same thing, and he's sharing these breath works, what helped with him and with all these other people in the world. And now he's got, what is it, like the Spartan camp or something like that? I got a little cat here. Sorry. Yeah. I got two kittens here, and they somehow pushed open the door. So 2 kittens and a dog. So it's messy, but they love each other. But anyways, back to him.
He's just and he's experienced it. So I'm guessing he didn't just go out and lay down in a snowbank and warm his body up. He learned over time. But as we start down the path of changing our thoughts, changing our actions, and doing what we can to embrace our negative emotions, not to stay in the negative, but to release them, and we have positive results, then our belief grows. And then we can dive in deeper. And I did my live TikTok this morning about, okay, we don't have to do growth work all the time. We can find a balance between self-improvement and joy, because we're here to enjoy our life. But the more that we find positive results, then it's easier for the protective part of our ego, our mind, to say, okay, I'm willing to go through the pain because I know I'm going to feel better when this is all over. And it's a long process, and it's not the same for everybody, because each one of us has our own reality and what works for us. But I can tell you, everybody I've worked with who's been willing to embrace the philosophy and embrace their emotional pain, their life has improved. And then they just say, wow, I didn't think this was possible. And thank you. And it's not because I'm special. It's just because I've discovered that this hidden part of ourselves, the third element, the emotional part of being human, is so powerful. And I avoided it for so much of my life. And that's one reason I think that I've kind of been guided to share this message, is because people can relate to me. I'm a masculine man who's embraced the feminine traits of intuition and compassion. And it hasn't decreased my masculinity. Today, I'm out shoveling dirt and cutting trees with an axe and doing all that. But at the same time, I'm able to be compassionate. I'm able to be intuitive, and I'm able to embrace my emotions and find balance.
Yeah. You allow yourself to feel, and a lot of these men out here, they're conditioned, let's face it, like growing up, I'm an 80s baby, right? An early 80s baby. And same thing from my dad, it was suck it up. You're depressed, suck it up. So I didn't have that. I wasn't taught to be able to regulate my emotions. It just came out most of the time, to be honest with you, as anger.
Yes. Because and there's no crying in baseball, and we learn not to do that. But also because when we open Pandora's box, okay, I'm going to look at my emotions and I want to feel better, so I want to feel good. But when we open that box, the good and the bad pours out. And a part of us, our mind, is afraid, oh God, if I feel the bad, it's going to last forever. Now, the opposite is true. If we ignore the bad, if we avoid those bad emotions, they're going to store in our body forever and eventually become an illness. But it's scary to open that box. It was scary for me. And sometimes I'd close it and then I'd go back in again. And it's not easy, but I can guarantee it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. And it takes time too. And like what you're touching on before, like you go through these, you do the work and all that. But a lot of people, and like if you're listening out there, like it's not instant gratification stuff. This it takes work. You got to put in the work, and you're not going to see instant results all the time right away. But eventually, if you do it, they will show up. It's just a matter of showing up for yourself and keep on pursuing it.
Something I'd like to add to that that was a surprise for me. As I started to evolve and become more clear, I lost a lot of friends and I lost connection with family members. Because if I'm being positive and my life is working and I'm doing the work, and they see my life is working and their life is not, they have a hard time being around that, because then they comes to grips with, they're not doing the work and they're not improving, and they don't want to look at that. So and you may have talked about this with other men or women, when we start to evolve, we're going to lose some friends and some family members, but we're going to find some better friends who are more optimistic and help us on our path.
That's so true. I say, well, not me, I didn't come up with this thing, but I've heard this and I preach it all the time, is people come in sometimes for a season, a reason, or a lifetime,
100%. Absolutely.
And that's what it is like, sometimes someone will come in to teach you something, right? And when my fiance came in, she taught me what true love is and how I want to be loved, and I won't settle for anything less than that anymore, because I got to feel what it feels like to truly be loved. And, at the same time too, is like, it's a sad situation what happened, but how I look at it is she had to come into my life and then she had to pass away so I could do this to help other people as well.
And anytime we're vulnerable enough to feel true love, there's a possibility we're going to feel pain also. But God never gives us anything bigger than what we're capable of handling. And when we do the work to work through the pain, then there's love waiting on the other side. It might take a while to get there, but it's always there. And I find that as I become more and more clear, my life kind of smooths out. And no, I don't have the huge ups, but I don't have the huge downs. And every day I have joy and gratitude and wonderful people I get to interact with. So the work's worth it.
Well, that's it, right? Like it's like this. It's not a coasting. It's going like this. No matter how much money you have or how much money you don't have, there will always be problems in life, and it's just a matter of how you deal with it. Some will be big, some will be small, but at the same time, I would still tackle the small ones just like how you tackle the big ones. But I do want to keep on getting into the book here. So what's one thing that people misunderstood about manifestation, do you think?
Well, the main thing is they think they can do it with their mind only. And I've had people in my life in the past, they thought if they just thought good thoughts and they were like Pollyanna, everything's wonderful and everybody's wonderful. And if I just hold this vision of success, then I will find success. And they avoided their emotions, and that held them back, and they were not able to reach their potential because they avoided the emotions. And I watched that. I watched this person with great potential just hold themselves back by avoiding.
Self-sabotage almost?
What's that?
Self-sabotage almost?
Kind of self-sabotage, but the problem was the pain was too big. So I've seen people in my lifetime, I've seen people who their life lesson was bigger than they were able to overcome. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't have been done. It's just they picked a bigger lesson than they could really find a good solution to. And I said, God never gives us anything bigger than we can overcome, but we have to do the work. And if we don't believe in ourselves or we don't do the work, then we're not going to get the results. And I've seen this in a few people, not many. Most people have big challenges and they find their way through them. Some people in the advanced class pick big challenges and they're just not able to get through that old childhood pain and find success. So that's the main thing. We can't do it just with our mind. And intelligent people, we find great success using our mind and taking action. And that really holds us back because we think we can continue to use our mind and our action to find the solution as we get older and older. And as we get older and older, sorry, it's late for me.
You're good.
It's harder and harder to find the success because our soul's path is to get in touch with the higher part of ourselves, to find the love and the joy in the world around us. And if we're just focused on thinking and working and we turn off the emotions, we're going to hit a wall.
Definitely. I mean, I could probably say I've hit a couple walls in my lifetime, to be honest with you, not being because I wasn't be able to regulate my emotions or I mean, like go into my emotions. To be honest, the only emotion that I was really seeing in my life that was coming up, and it was just anger, that's what it was. And it was like it was blocking out all the other good ones.
Until 25 years ago, that was me. And just that anger was there. And until I was able to have a few situations where I got through it, it ruled my life and it held me back. And it's not a natural thing. And especially as men. So as men, we're here to provide and protect. And we are taught we need to be respected, and we should be respected. We should act respectable so we're respected. But we're always afraid, oh God, if I show any softness, weakness, vulnerability, then I'm not going to be respected. So for a man to take a leadership position from a place of service and a place of vulnerability, that's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. And then also you got these other guys that are calling you down like, oh no, like why? Oh, you're a pussy. Sorry, but yeah, and all, you know what I mean? But that's true strength is showing your emotions, and I'm telling you, there's more women out there don't want the alpha macho. Like I'm just trying to word this properly. So when I say alpha, I think alpha is a different than a lot of people, what they think out there. People think, oh, alpha is going to be the buffest guy, the red pill mentality, like they're on a pedestal, have all the money, have all the girls, have all this and that. And to me, that's not alpha. Alpha is like being
calm and confident. That's what an alpha is. An
100%.
alpha is always calm, and an alpha is always confident because they know it's right, and they know that by doing the right thing, they're going to get good results. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I preach that, not this, what the internet tells you. I mean, mind you, we are on the internet and we're telling you, but don't listen to the other part of the internet. Don't listen to the other part of the internet. Just this. But yeah, that's how I think it really is. I mean, just what I'm doing. You're spreading. You're helping other people, picking people up. When they're down. Doing like that's real alpha mentality. That's the pack leader, and that's what it's about. I see you.
There's another thing I share in the book, which is people only judge us as much as we judge ourselves. And we grew up learning to judge ourselves to survive. And those patterns, those thought patterns, those patterns get stuck in us, and those emotions get stuck in us. And then we judge ourselves, and then the world outside mirrors that judgment. I found that when I got through my own judgment of myself and was able to release that, the world around me didn't judge me.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the same time too, you're not filling your head with all this stuff, and who cares? Like I used to say this all the time, and I got to bring this back. This was my saying. And it's like, who cares what other people think? They're not coming to your birthday. You know what I mean? Like, who cares?
Right, exactly.
Like, I'm at the stage in my life where if I'm walking down the street and some guy, let's say some guy goes, you're a bitch, I would say, okay, whatever, see you later. I don't really care. Right. You know what I mean? Who are you to me? At the end of the day, who are you to me? Like, maybe he's just having a really shitty day, and his anger, and he just needs to take it out. That's his problem. But I'm not going to entertain that. I'm not going to give my energy to these people unless, don't get me wrong, unless, then it becomes more, life or death kind of thing or something like that. Then obviously you're going to stand up. I'm going to stand up for myself.
And that's setting boundaries. But at the same time, if somebody says something to me and I get irritated, then I look to myself and say, why am I irritated? If that's not true, why am I irritated? Maybe it's an emotion from the past when I was judged. Somebody said to me in the 8th grade and I didn't feel it. I hung on to it. Emotions are bigger than time and space. And that's what people don't understand. And I explain all this in the book too. Our thinking mind is never in the present moment. Our physical body is only in the present moment. We can't feel our body from yesterday or our body from tomorrow. It's only now. We can think about the future or the past, and we can't think a stream of thought in the moment. It's always over a stream of time. And then our emotions are bigger than time and space, and they have to come through our physical body. So emotions that I felt 10 years ago or 50 years ago, though whatever they felt like in the moment, when I reactivate those, it's as if I'm right back there in time again. And the beauty of that is I get to burn it off. So stored emotions are like stored gasoline. You put gasoline in a metal can, you can store it for 10 or 20 years. And when you pour it out and light it on fire, it still burns, but it only burns once. So when we burn off that old emotional energy, it burns and it's gone. It's thermodynamics, really. If we breathe through it or we express it physically, or for me, sometimes as a grown man, if it's a big deal, sometimes I cry the tears. And that doesn't make me less of a man. It's just expressing emotion. I'm human. That turns into thermal energy instead of stored emotions in our body. It's released, it's gone. And my life's better.
Yeah, exactly. And I preach about that. You need some kind of release, and it's okay to cry. I got a video on my TikTok of me crying because I was in a hard time, and I pushed it out there to show other men that it's okay, and you know what? No hater comments. Like people were like, yeah, like, this is, and it's, I could see we're on the brink of almost, it's okay. You know what I mean? We're on the brink, but it's like, we're not right there. But like people are finally opening up their eyes and, standing up for themselves and other men. So it's pretty amazing.
So when we cry because it's genuine, then people don't respond to that negatively. So if I cry because of joy, because I hear a friend of mine yesterday, a fireman, saved a 6-week-old baby that they had to do CPR on. They saved the baby. And that's
wow.
Holy fuck. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, hey, this is raw minds. You can swear like, fuck. There you go. Don't worry about it.
That child, that soul has a life now because this person was there. He drove over 100 miles an hour. He got there in time and that revived that baby. And now that baby has a chance at life, the same as you or me. And that is beautiful. And that brought tears to my eyes of somebody dedicating their life to others. And the fact that that baby now has a chance at life. So I want to, every day, my goal is to cry a tear from gratitude and joy, cry a tear from emotional release. That doesn't mean I'm going to be a sobbing mess. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be intelligent. It doesn't mean I'm going to use my emotions to make decisions. My decisions are made with my mind, not my emotions. and they're made with my intuition. I know the difference now between my emotions and my intuition. But I'm comfortable crying, and I've cried in front of my employees, and I talk about this actually in the book, and nobody judged me because it was genuine and I didn't judge myself.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. That reminds me of actually yesterday. I was shedding a tear yesterday because there's this guy that makes videos and he goes around to people and he's like, "Hey, do you got $1? I need $1." And if they give him $1, then he gives them back $1,000. But then he like sees them the next day and then gives like, or no, what was it? So the one I watched them all, to be honest with you, but one of the ones that stood out the most is he was in a library and there's this guy, he was a student, and he's like, "Hey, do you have any food? I'm hungry." And the student pulls out like 2 big cracker things. He's like, "Here, you can have both of these. This is all I have, but you can have these." He's like, "Really?" He's like, yeah, that's all you. Thank you so much. So then he gives him $1,000. Comes back the next day, the student's there, and then the guy's like, "Hey, I brought 2 crackers for you to give you back." He's like, "I got 2 too," right? So they both 4 crackers. He's like, "I'm not here though for the crackers." He's like, what did he say? He's like, do you have a computer? And he's like, "Yeah, but it's not a great one." He's like, "Well, I got you a MacBook." And then he pulls out a MacBook. And then after that, he's like, "But I got something else to show you outside. So can you just come with me outside?" Brings the guy outside and he's like, "Here, this is for you." Gives him a brand new car. And then he's like, "There's one last surprise." And he's like, "Open the trunk. $1,000 in the trunk." There's more to that. Like, I'm not getting too much into it, right? But there's more to the story. This guy was suffering. You know, he was sleeping on friends' couches. He didn't have a place to stay. He was an immigrant, came over here. You know, he became a citizen. All this, right? And he was struggling, and he's trying to do his schooling. And this guy just, it was very emotional. And it was, you know, seeing someone pay it forward just because, you know. Hopefully the video is real. Like, I really hope. Well, you never know, but
regardless of that, that's a great story. Regardless of how true that story is, we are all spiritual beings on a human path. And there's a deeper part of every one of us. And again, we don't have to believe in religion. We don't have to believe in anything specifically, but I can tell you what we feel when we're connected with our loved ones, whether it's through loss or whether it's through joy, that bigger part of us is a lot bigger than we think. And we're just here on this planet for a short period of time. But the deeper part of us, our soul that's learning from all this, is extremely powerful. It's there to help. And it's a deeper experience than we realize. Cat, I love that. It's a deeper experience. So that's what I try and remind people of is we're all beautiful. We're born and we're a baby. We're innocent and we're beautiful. And then what happens? We adapt to the world around us and we forget that everybody at the core is beautiful. Now, there's still times when we have to set boundaries and take action to remove ourselves from situations. But overall, we all have the potential to find beauty and find joy in our everyday life.
Just to get back to your book here, I want to see, can you give us one particular tool from your book that people can use today? And I know we talked about like the breath work and stuff like that, and you got the 14, you said 14, correct?
14 in chapter 7.
14.
Yes.
But do you have any, besides that 14, do you have any other tools that you talk about in the book that you could let our listeners know?
Well, the one that I love to share is journaling, because a left brain person like myself, I write down my to-do list. I write down my problems and I write down my solutions. And then I tell people do that. Write down your problems, write down your solutions. I don't care if you're scribbling out pictures. Then after you think about solutions, you may find solutions. Even if you do, what's the feeling that problem brings up? If you're like, well, I don't want to go to the feeling. Okay, well, start with the external problem. How does it affect you? Is there a solution? Then dive a little deeper and say, how does it feel to have that problem? And that's where the real power is. Now, the other steps along the way don't hurt, and it lets the mind feel comfortable about the exercise. And if the person says, oh God, this feels really bad because I'm having all these emotions come up, stop the exercise, stop writing things down, walk away, come back to it later. And you can pick it up later if you want, and you can throw it away if you want. You're not obligated. Nobody's going to make you go through your emotional growth. It's always a choice.
That's so true. I talk about journaling all the time. And a big thing too is like, you could just, anything you want. You know what I mean? How you're feeling, you can put note forms. If you even want to draw pictures, draw pictures. There's no rules to it at the end of the day. It's you expressing how you feel in that moment, or whatever emotions you're going through.
And so the moment is really the key here. When we involve our physical body with something, our brain, never in the present moment, is operating our body, and our hand is always in the present moment. Now, we can type it out on a keyboard too, but when we write it on a physical piece of paper, we become more immersed in the process and more aware and present in that moment in the process. So to me, that's the safest thing for people who are like, I don't know, this sounds like it's kind of scary to bring up my emotions. Write it down. That's pretty safe. And if you need to, you can walk away.
Exactly. And you know what? If you have that book and you've been writing it, like I was watching a TikTok and this girl has been journaling for 10 years every day. Wow. Every day. And I mean, I can't imagine, like it was made me really think, like, you know, reading back like 10 years where you were in life and in that moment, you know, and how you felt to the like 10 years later and where you are today and how you feel, you know, it's just, and like you get to look back and be like, see your growth, you know, and that's the beauty of it.
And keeping to-do lists is fun. If we keep a physical copy, my computer copy, I'm just erasing them all the time. But I go back to some of my physical to-do lists from years ago and I thought, wow, I dreamed of doing this and it actually happened. So writing is really powerful. The subconscious says, okay, I see it now. That's my goal. And also it can say, I want to release this fear. I want to release this anger. That's my goal. And that's where the writing is powerful both ways.
Definitely. Yeah, like you said, setting goals. But I believe that not reachable goals, you know what I mean? Like reachable, not like I'm going to go to the moon in 4 hours. You know what I mean? I mean, that's ridiculous. But I'm just saying, like, you want to make reachable goals because then you're not setting yourself up for failure, because, you know, that's the biggest thing too, is you get in your head like, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, you know? But like I said,
the small goals build confidence. And as our confidence builds, confidence breeds confidence. And so, and another thing I share with people is don't share your goals with everybody, because if you have negative friends or negative family members, they're going to drag you down somehow. You keep your goals to yourself. If you have a domestic partner that you want to share it with, then that's fine if you trust that they're also positive and optimistic. But otherwise, write down your goals for yourself. That's between you and whatever higher power you believe in. And don't let people dilute your goals, and don't let people tell you you can't do it.
I 100% on that, because people will drain your energy and then it'll infect you, you know, and then, I mean, sometimes you may, you know, quit on your goal because oh no, you're never going to be doing that. You're never going to be able to do that, you know, and that's, it puts implants on your head sometimes, you know. So another thing, get rid of those negative people, definitely, because you don't need that shit in your life.
No, even if they've been friends for 30 years, if they're not helping us grow, then we need to go find our own growth. We can reconnect with them later.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean that they got to be gone forever. Who knows? Maybe they'll level up at one time too, you know? It's like this, right? You know, people, it's different layers, right? And sometimes this person will be here this fast and then this person eventually catches up. You never know. Sorry, I'm a little bit far from my mic there, but yeah, you never know, right? So I'm guessing when you brought out your book and stuff, you got a lot of reviews back, like people give you reviews and stuff. How did people react to the book? What hit them? What do you think hit them the hardest? Like, what, from your feedback, what really touched your followers from your book there?
When I talk to people in person, because I go to a lot of events and I hand out books and talk to people about my philosophy, they say, oh my God, I've been wanting someone to talk about emotions. And I hear this from women and I hear it from men. I hear it from men saying, I want to be more comfortable sharing my emotions and feeling my emotions. And I hear women saying, I want my husband to be more comfortable feeling and sharing their emotions. And then with women, I do a lot of inner child work where I help women connect with that beautiful inner child that they shut off. And it's both pain and it's the beauty that they were not allowed to express. Their happiness, their joy, the beautiful things they saw in the world. A lot of women are told, no, you can't be that way. You have to behave. You have to be disciplined. You can't be this fun-loving child. And so I help a lot of women also get in touch with their inner child. And they're just like, wow, thank you. This has really lightened my life in all areas. I don't carry the pain. I don't carry the worry. And now I can see the beauty in people around me better. So that's really what I get, is positive reactions. Now, some people are like, I don't know. I don't understand this. My dad's like, yeah, okay, I read the book. It's interesting. Because he's just not there and he doesn't need to be there. And some people,
well, I find that it's just like, that's just a base layer, you know. They're not really hearing or feeling the words, you know. A lot of people, it's like a skim coat. A lot of people just go over. That's what I'm thinking, maybe outside the box here. But you know,
we're not all meant to evolve completely in this lifetime. I'm a big believer in reincarnation and multiple lifetimes. Can't prove it, but I've seen a lot of evidence that makes me think that. And not
Yep.
everybody's going to evolve and not everybody's going to have a good life, but everybody has the opportunity to work towards a better life. Everybody has the opportunity to improve their life, no matter how good or bad it is. And everybody has the opportunity to be grateful for the good things in our modern world. There's so many modern conveniences that we didn't have just 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know where I
We
was
were just
going with that.
talking
I got
about
off track.
no, you're good. We were just talking about that actually before the podcast about all the technology and luckily we weren't way back then when they didn't even know what mental health was, right? We're very lucky to live in this time right now.
And I touch on in the book, and I say that I believe mental health is really emotional health, and we can measure our mental responses and reactions and where we are mentally. It's hard to measure emotions and quantify emotions, so we call it mental health. But for me, it's really emotional wounding that we haven't released completely. And when we do that, then we find more happiness, more success, and more fulfillment.
Peace.
What other questions do you have? Because I kind of ramble a lot here.
No, you're good. You're good, man. I appreciate it. I'm having a great time here. If you could sum up the third element in one line, what's the truth you hope readers would walk away with?
It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to experiment with new ideas to improve our life. And we're not going to get it perfect. And we don't need to get it perfect. And love yourself, have compassion for yourself, and know that at some level, there is a supreme being who loves us and is on our side without judgment and without expectation. And we all have the potential to find joy in our life.
That's a great answer, man. Really, that's a great. Thank you. I'm just feeling all the emotions, man. Like you gave me goosebumps. My whole body was like, got the tingles. Thank you for that. Thank you. And what you're spreading is amazing here. There's just one little. I got two more things I want to bring up here.
Sure.
I just want to
I'm here for you.
What are a few non-negotiables in your daily life that you keep grounded, or keeps you grounded?
I won't complain. I won't gossip. Now, I don't have it today. I reordered it. Somebody gave me 3 weeks ago a white rubber wristband. And so every time I think something negative or judge somebody, I have to change it to the other arm. And it's so powerful. Oh my God. The first day I'm back and forth. And pretty soon I kind of caught myself and my mind says, no, we don't need to do this. Let's just be more positive. And it automatically became more positive.
Who taught you that? That's cool. Like that's a really cool way to be aware of your feelings and your emotions.
A friend of mine gave me that, and I shared that with another friend last week, and he didn't have a band, but he had a ring that he could move from one finger on one hand to the same finger on the other hand. He could move it back and forth. So he started doing that because he was judging himself. He was very self-judgmental. I said, just be aware of how much you judge yourself and learn to love yourself and be aware of that, and it'll help. So it's just a simple trick. It works.
Yeah. I hope it wasn't his wedding ring because his wife would probably get mad at him. But I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I'm probably gonna find one of my daughter's hair elastics, to be honest with you, and start doing that, man.
Frenchie will do the job just fine.
I love that. Another thing, have you ever tried sound baths?
No, I have not tried that.
Do you know what a sound bath is?
I have a rough idea, but please explain it.
So I had Jenny. She's actually a really good friend of mine. She does sound baths, and they're crystal bowls, right? And different sizes of these crystal bowls make different frequencies. Yeah, frequencies. And I'm telling you, man, wow. Like when people say a sound bath, you're thinking like what? You like go have a bath? Like it's weird, right? But what it is like if you ever put like a drink up against water, right? You'll see it vibrates, right? Well, your body's made up with 90% of water. And the way that she does it though, there's these silk hammocks, right? That hang from the yoga room. And we went in these silk. It was when Anthony came, before he left, he came down here to Vancouver actually, and we got to hang out and meet for the first time for a week. And we went to one of her sound baths, and you sit in this like silk hammock, and she puts blindfolds over you, and the sound, like different instruments, man, and it takes you on a journey. And I'm telling you, you can fight it as much as you want, but at some point you're gonna be passed out, but in this like euphoric like dream state. And she's got this gong, like, and she hits this gong, and I swear to God, the gong's huge, right? It's big. But it feels like she's like moving it around your head, but but the vibration, the gong's sitting on the other side. It didn't even move, but the way that it goes, and it's an amazing euphoric like thing, man. I highly recommend trying it at least once in your life. It may not be the silks, but if you ever can find the silks, man, that's it. Because you're floating there, like you're cocooned in a butterfly almost. And then when you're done, you come out and you just feel refreshed, man. So I wanted to share that experience with you, because it's really just an amazing adventure that I've gone through. She even came to my house and we did a group one too. Like the second time is a whole different ball game, because you know what's going to happen and you just float into it, right? The first time you're kind of like, oh, what's going to happen? To be honest, like me and Anthony we're going there and we're like, what is this? Is she just going to bang on some pots and pans and make some noise, So and she opened our eyes.
Everything at every level in the universe, down to the atomic and subatomic nuclear level and subnuclear level, it's all vibration. It's all frequency.
Yeah.
Energy at any level is all a frequency. And so, those frequencies that interact with our bodies, they trigger healing, they trigger evolution.
Yeah. It was an amazing thing. Like I will recommend it to everybody. I mean, you gotta, if you ever get a chance, you try it once. Trust me, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And I just felt euphoric after. It was like doing a whole bunch of drugs and feeling just great, but without doing the drugs. You know what I mean? It was kind of actually it was so funny, because me and Anthony, we show up to this like yoga place. There's these two other girls. It was just a small little class. She was only doing it technically for us, and then these two other ladies wanted to come in, right? So she let them come in. But they're like, so are you guys on shrooms? Because they saw us, right, and thought maybe like, we're not your typical people going, right? And like, are you here just to like do the shrooms? And we're like, are you serious? But he's like, is that an option? But at the end of the day, no, we enjoyed it straight sober. I suggest going sober. It was an amazing experience. So I just wanted to say that. But on that note, because we are getting to the end here, I do want to ask the most important question through this whole podcast here. And for me anyways, if you had one advice to the world, what would it be? If you could give advice to the world, what would it be?
Be willing to cry and not be ashamed to express your emotions and release that pain. We don't need to hold on to the pain. And there's no reason to have shame around being human. So cry the tears.
Love it. Love it. What a great answer. Well, Randy, thank you for bringing the truth and this conversation, man. I had a blast. I really want you to come back. You just didn't just show up. You are a leader. It shows, just from the way you are, and you're a man who does the work. You got the proof, you got the book, you got, it's amazing. And I hope men listening to this stop pretending to be fine and grind the pain and the silence, man. It's not, like I said, it's not strength to survive. That's what it is. People be quiet, and I'm sorry, I'm losing train. People are quiet, and that's bearing it down and trying to be tough. That's not real strength, like we've talked about, being vulnerable and having those feminine traits, but doesn't mean that you're feminine, showing up for yourself and giving yourself able to feel, so I really appreciate you, coming on and sharing that with us. And for everybody out there, go grab the third element, follow Randy online, and take the first honest step inwards. You already know what you're not working on. Now it's time to do something different. So I want you to plug yourself one last time so everybody knows. And I'll put it up on the screen here for you too, so people can see it.
So the easiest way to find me is at my website, randylyman.com, RANDYLYMAN.com. There's free offers. There's links to helpful stuff. You can join the community. You can find my social media links. And I'm doing this to share what's worked for me. And so I really hope that people can find some relief and a path to a better life through what's worked for me.
I love it, man. And I want you to know you're so messed up now because you're part of the Raw Minds family. So honestly, I want you to come back, man. I really do. I'd love for you to come back and shoot the shit and have a good time, man.
Well, I love the work you do, and I love that you're bold enough to be authentic and to be genuine and share who you really are, because not everybody's willing to do that. And when you set that example, it gives people permission to feel what they need to feel and be human and find a path to healing.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It means a lot. It does mean a lot. And you know what? Like, I have a really hard time accepting compliments. I really do, because sometimes I used to feel that I was never good enough, you know. But now, like, you know, I get compliments all the time, and I appreciate it. It doesn't pump my brain, I'll tell you that, or my head or whatever. But like, I do appreciate it. But it's just, I'm working on that, you know. That's one thing that I have to work on. But I appreciate all of you, because I never think that I'm doing enough, you know. But I'm the biggest critic, you know. Like, people like, oh, you're doing so good. Like, no, man, no, that's not good. Like, I know I can do better, you know. But I'm starting to accept that. So I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for you know, those kind words, and I appreciate that. And if this hits your gut, do the thing. Follow Raw Minds Podcast. Leave a comment. Share it with someone that, you know, may need to hear this, or a man that's struggling and, you know, just needs to hear some raw truth, you know. And this is it right here. So I just want to say, Randy, thank you again, man. And then until next time, everybody, thank you for showing up. I appreciate all you guys. This is Raw Minds, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Randy, that was great.